How you all doing? The rye is topping out and it's got all the seed on. You may be wondering why I'm growing rye on the allotment, and basically it's about soil health. So the rye has been growing since last September, and it puts deep roots out into the soil, and those roots will, there's not much topsoil on this allotment, there's only about that much, and then we're into a solid bed of clay. And I'm hoping that the roots will just slightly push into that clay and bring nutrients up. The whole intention of planting this rye was to break up the ground and improve the soil health. So those roots will be going into the ground, hitting that clay layer, bringing nutrients up. And when I terminate this rye, I will cut it off at the base and leave all those roots in. Those roots will then rot down. They'll provide food for the microorganisms in the soil as they rot down. They'll also create air channels in the soil, which will improve the drainage. It will also improve water retention. What is healthy soil? Well, I'll tell you this, I'll tell you what healthy soil is. If you have the ultimate health in your soil, this means that as your plants grow and get to full size, they become almost invisible to airborne pests and diseases, because the soil gives those plants everything they need to combat and resist threats, because the plants are directly feeding the soil. The microbiome in the soil, the fungus and the bacteria totally rely on these plants to give them food and give them life. So in return, they give the plant what it needs to stay growing and put out a nice big abundant root system to feed them. That's what healthy soil is, and I can illustrate that perfectly. But to do that, we need to just pop over to my friend's allotment. Well, in June next month, so in about 6-7 weeks time, I will have been on this allotment for 2 years. And 2 years ago, when I took it on in the end of June, I did start taking a few video clips on different devices, so the formats are all a bit different, but I'm putting together a compilation video of how I tamed this wilderness, which was kind of derelict allotment. People never stayed on this for more than roughly a year because it just did not grow anything. It's got a high clay layer, as I say. The rest of the soil was just sort of lifeless and dry. There was one section over this side that barely grew anything, that section towards there. Nothing would grow in it. That first year I raked all the stubble off and I planted mustard, and the mustard just did not grow, and I watered it every day religiously. There was about 5 little plants growing. That showed me how bad the ground was. You can tell what state your soil is in by the type of weeds that grow as well, but I'll come back to that on a later video. Yep, so 2 years ago I took this on. I filmed all sorts of little clips and showed the progress of making the beds. And if you're watching this, I'm hoping it will help you turn what was really very, very poor grade soil into really healthy soil that will grow beautiful crops for you. As I say, this is my 2nd year, and I think that by the end of year 3, this soil will possibly be as good as it's going to be. We're nearly there now. It just needs maybe 2 more deep dressings of compost, which it's getting all the time. It's getting 1 to 2 dressings every year of compost between crops. This allotment also crops twice, so every bed crops at least twice. Some beds crop 3 times. So it's the equivalent of having sort of possibly 2 allotments or 3 allotments if you get your timings right and you get everything in. But I also grow a final cover crop at the end of the year on every single bed if possible. In any case, let's have a look around the allotment. Where are we? We're about the 10th of May, something like that today. This again was a full stand of rye which has been terminated. Just left these 6 in. That bed there, the empty one behind here, that's having sweet corn in, as is this bed up to here, so that'll be a bed and a half of sweet corn. The front of this has my young beetroots in. And we have here broad beans, which were put in a couple of months ago. They're full of flower, full of flower. Again, beetroot at the front of that bed. And this bed here has my onion seed in, which is doing just so well. There's a bit of elephant garlic here as well. And in just a minute I'll show you a case in point how permaculture or no dig or minimal soil disturbance really works with relation to elephant garlic, which just gives us the most perfect example of why this system of growing food works so well. So behind the big rye stand, the potatoes, 2 beds of potatoes here. Now these little potatoes are a variety called Charlotte, and I actually grew those in pots in the polytunnel. So I grew 9 in pots and then I grew 9 from seed there, and you can see the difference in size on them. The reason I pre-grew these in sort of tiny little 2-litre pot, the reason I did this was to see if these potatoes do any better than the 9 seed potatoes there. Ultimately, I mean, I know they're ahead now, but having that early start in the polytunnel, giving them a longer growing season, will they do ultimately any better than the 9 seed potatoes that are next to them growing? We shall see. If this does work out, then I may just pre-chit and grow all my potatoes next year. I've got more onions there. More onions, about 250 I think onions growing, and my solemn white garlic there. We've still got a few carrots here left over from last year. I keep cutting the tops off, they keep growing. They're coming to the end now, they're getting a little bit woody. I'm not sure what's going in this bed yet, but I've got this, basically this bed, this one and this one are the only spaces now I've got left to grow in, apart from the sweet corn bed. And that far bed there has some onions in, some onion seed which I just planted. These are sort of leftover spring onions and some garlic from last year that wasn't harvested, which is regrowing. But these will be cleared very shortly. And these peas, I did start them in the polytunnel in gutters. They're just in flower now, as you can see. There's another bank there. They were the second lot to go in, and another bank there, the third lot to go in. They are a different variety though. They're a taller pea. These 2 here are dwarf peas. On this side here with more potatoes, 2 beds there. We have lettuce and cabbage and cauliflower growing in this bed, netted over. I think I've finally got on top of the wireworm problem in this bed now. I grew these lettuce sacrificial to attract the wireworms. I managed to get about 30 to 40 wireworms out of this soil, and I think, touch wood, that we have got on top of them now. There's actually more potatoes in this bed here as well. Early carrots are just coming up. So my first sowing of carrots, you can possibly see them in this bed here. The 2 rows on the end have been totally demolished by slugs, so I'm going to have to sow them again. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I have 5 banks of carrots growing in this bed, so we'll be all right for now. I will do a second sowing of carrots around about August time, end of July, beginning of August, a variety called Eskimo. These here are the Eskimos, which are still growing. They survive winter no problem whatsoever, and they are a really nice carrot. Another bank of peas along the edge of this bed, which has got the sprouts in it and some cauliflower. No, sorry, it's got some sprouts on the end and some calabrese here. I've left this patch here empty because I'm just going to put some more sprouts in here. I made this pea cage about a week ago, 10 days ago. So, because I do love peas, they're one of my favourite vegetables, and really I don't think I could grow enough peas. And having them in and around beds with nets over them is a complete and utter faff. Picking the peas, taking nets off, putting nets back, because out here the wood pigeons will utterly destroy any peas they can get to. I mean, overnight. So I've built this cage. There was that trellis on the back originally. I've just simply pushed some more canes in, zip tied the canes where they cross, screwed this little batten on the front, stretched the netting over, scaffold netting over the top and side. This is just about a 3/4 inch mesh. I've put this on the front to let the maximum amount of light in on the peas. The sun's here all day. I've got about 24 foot of peas in now along the boundary on the outside. They are a tall pea, about 6-7 foot tall they'll grow. I'm also growing the peas in sections like so in here, about 2 foot apart. So I plan to completely fill this with peas. Holding this down is just a batten on the ground with, I just put a brick on, but I can get into it to water like so. There's just a bungee cord on the corners just to keep the net taut that way. Yeah, so I can get in. So far, so good. I've had mice in here just digging up the odd pea. They're not eating them, they're just looking for a route to get to the back. They're just moving around the allotment at night. But for the last 2 nights, they have left them alone, thankfully. Show you in the polytunnel. Well, I did a video a couple of days ago showing you planting my melons. I've also did a video a few days ago planting my tomatoes, about a week ago I think. So I've got, I think, 8 or 9 varieties of tomatoes in the ground now. So I'm taking a leaf out of Hugh Richards' book. I was watching him on his video a few days ago where he said he's going to plant his tomatoes and he's going to water them in initially, and after that he's not going to do anything. He's not going to do any side shoot pruning. He's going to give them no water, no feed, nothing for about 10 to 12 days to encourage the plants to put down roots to go and look for water, moisture and food. So it just sounds like such a good idea, that, so I'm giving that a go. As I say, 10 varieties. These things are really shooting up now. They're doing so well. So been picking on these lettuce now for about 6 or 7 weeks. There's a load of flowers at the back there. Erin Dawes is putting up, and my grapevine up there is doing really well. This is the little coal frame I built a few weeks ago. I've got 6 peppers in here. These are all sweet peppers. At this end, a couple of lettuce. These plants had gone really yellow. The leaves had gone so yellow because they'd just been in the pots way too long. But you can see now that they're starting to get some beautiful green leaves, new leaves growing on the top. And the plants are just greening out. They've been in about a week now in the ground. And this is kind of the overspilled tomatoes. Yeah, these here are the overspilled tomatoes from the polytunnel. There's no room for them. These are going to grow outside. I'm also taking some of them home to plant them at home. She's been busy putting all these flowers in on the borders, all the way around the allotment, weeding and putting flowers in. I think it's going to look wonderful this year, this border. She's absolutely stuffed them with flowers. They should just be lush and abundant, bringing all the pollinators, insects, etc. Look at this. Is this not absolutely beautiful? This has produced so much flower this year. Bees absolutely love it. It's just hanging, literally hanging in bees all day. These are little honeybees just all over it. I'm currently working on the video which shows you exactly how I transformed this allotment from the mess that it was, covered in weed, to the way you see it today. Hopefully it will encourage somebody to try no dig. Just before I go, I'm going to take you over and show you why no dig works. Okay, we're here on my friend's allotment, which he religiously digs every year. Once, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times. So he's constantly moving the soil. He grows a lot of onions, as you can see. But I just want to spin you around here and show you something. So he was asking me the other day, these are his elephant garlic. So he was asking me the other day why these plants look like this and why this row here looks like this. They are 2 to 3 times the thickness of the other elephant garlics, which are just like pencils in comparison. Do you know why? Can you see why? Any idea why? Well, the answer is very, very simple. This patch of grass, this path, has never been dug. Well, not since he came on anyway. And what's happened is the elephant garlic on this side have got the roots into this soil here, which is so much healthier than the soil in the rest of the bed, that has been dug and dug and dug and dug. That is why these garlics are a full 12 inches higher than the rest of them. They are also 2 to 3 times thicker than the rest of them. And there is a perfect example of how and why no dig just works. Even an incidental thing like that. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm going to talk about soil health and how you can determine how healthy your soil is, or if your soil is healthy. If it turns out your soil is not as healthy as you thought it was, and I'll just give you some great tips and ideas, very simple ideas to really improve your soil and just grow better food. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.